Hello and welcome and happy Friday, March 31st, 2023, the last Friday of the month, the last day of the month. Super excited to have you all here, wherever you are watching from, whether you're watching from the YouTube, from Twitter, from Facebook, wherever you are. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Quick intro, I'm Reverend Joanne Angel Barry Cologne, your certified holistic personal trainer, intuitive healer, cosmic energy reader, medical astrologer, master of numerology, the creator of the Chakra Balance Numerology Cosmic Energy Forecast deck, and the founder of Holistic Fitness located in Queens. And today, I was supposed to be accompanied by one of my amazing colleagues, one of the most amazing humans on this earth. However, he's been derailed a bit. So I am hoping that he will be joining us at some point or another. And who I am speaking of is Natad Bradbury. He's an amazing human, as I mentioned, and him and I have a lot of conversations behind the scenes. And we often say to each other after hours of conversations, this should have been recorded. And we're getting smarter. We are getting smarter where when we do have these conversations, we do decide to record them, which is what we're doing right now, or at least what I'm doing right now, based on something he had posted on Facebook about a week and a half ago. And it was really an interesting topic because it was something that I was actually just having a conversation with my husband regarding food, regarding the whole process. The conversation that I asked my husband was, could you imagine not having to eat food, not having to actually sit down and eat food? And when I use the word sit down, whether we're sitting to eat or we're on the go to eat, but could you imagine a life was if we were all created not to necessarily have to consume food to obtain the nutrients that food gives us, or at least supposed to give us, not to go into a whole different conversation. And me having that conversation with my husband, several days later, my good friend, colleague, and amazing human, Natad, posted this amazing conversation on Facebook. And I'm not going to go too much into that conversation, only because, again, I'm hoping he's going to pop in at some point during this recording. And if not, there will be a part two to this part of the conversation. But I will quote something that he did start off the conversation with. And it goes as, everything we consume has an energy signature, including food. Well, his quote was, including our food. And that is so true. Everything is energy. Everything is energy. And in the last, I'm going to say 2 years, 3 years, perhaps, maybe even longer. Well, 2, 3 years, and it's actually come into my awareness where we are the creator. We get to create our lives as we desire it to be based on what it is we want in our life. Now, understanding that whatever it is that we desire, note that that's already been in our contracts. It's been pre-written for us. And Natasha and I speak of this in our last conversation that we had, and you can find that on my YouTube channel, in reference to our contracts. Everything that we do has already been pre-written prior to even being born. And it's that conversation that you and I have with our higher power in reference to what is our journey, what is our purpose to why we are here, who are the different people we are connecting with to experience the different lessons that we are here to learn about ourselves, so we can peel away old habits, old beliefs, whole programmings, and become lighter and transition into that higher frequency that we came here to do. And upon doing that, it allows us to share insight with one another, such as what I'm doing here today. It's just insight based on lessons. And the word I tend to use a lot is downloads. And I'm sure there's many of you out there who do the same, where we gain insight. For me, it's during my sleeping world, whether it's actually during nighttime when I sleep for that 6 to 8 hours, or during the daytime where I'm just sitting quietly in my daydreaming, and I receive insight to information. And this insight that I do receive, in my opinion, you cannot learn this from a book. You cannot learn this from sitting in your traditional schools. This is information that it's almost like the how would I want to call it? The book. The book. And the book I speak of is known as the Akasha Records. It opens, and that I'm in that higher vibration to be able to see and read the information that's in there. That's part of the contract of what it is I'm supposed to be teaching to everyone who is in my journey, who's on my path, for me to elevate them. So with all that being said, this conversation that Todd posed in this Facebook page and I had with my husband, theoretically maybe 5 days apart from each other. I had the conversation, and shortly afterwards, here it is, Natad is posting pretty much the same conversation that I had. And it is so very interesting because, again, I like to say, like-minded folks think alike. Well, is it coincidentally that Natad had that conversation and I thought about that same conversation 5 days prior? Or is it really one of those things that on a consciousness, the contracts that we shared, Natad and I shared together, the journey that he and I are on as both being the teachers, as both being students with each other, because him and I do bounce off ideas to one another, insight to one another. We are definitely in alignment with each other. Neither one of us are higher than the other. We are students to each other, and then we are teachers to each other. And I learned so much from him based on his wisdom, how he shows up. And I like to think he learns so much from me as well. And here we are, or should I say, here I am, to share some of this wisdom with you based on just some things that I read from his posts. Now, he and I have not had an opportunity to have a conversation about this just yet. That's what today was going to be for. And I am still holding space that our higher power is going to free up his time, that he can come and join me in any minute so he and I can have this amazing conversation with all of you, and that you can walk away with some amazing insight and perhaps start changing your belief habits and even philosophies when it comes to food. Now, I know for me, my biggest mission as of 2023 and going forward, however long this mission takes for me to fulfill, my biggest mission that I've been called to do is to really help every one of you out there who are in my path, who literally are in my path as I walk this journey, to help you discover new ways about health, fitness, wellness, and of course, how you move and connect with your body. Now, what I'd like to start off by saying, when we think about food and energy and nutrients is not just the food we consume. Nutrients is also who and how we connect with, the people we connect with and how we connect. That too is nutrients. So for example, conversations that you may have with one another, or you might be consuming a lot of insight from media, whether you're watching TV, you might be watching an episode out there, that you're so in tune with, because it's just feeding some sort of an emotion, and that's the word I just heard, some sort of an emotion which causes you to be attached to it, causes you to want to binge off of it. And I'm very guilty of it as well. I have many evenings where I choose not to do any actual work that I'm here to do, contract work. And I choose to go into that state of just wanting to sit and binge an episode of whatever it might be. But did you know, by doing that, and whether you binge for 30 minutes, 60 minutes, or even longer, and for me, that could be anywhere between 4 or 5 episodes where I sit and just continue to watch whatever that episode, whatever that series is, and I'm watching. That's how I'm nourishing my body, based on that information that's showing up through what I see, how I hear it, and how I also feel. Now, I'm sure many of you out there are empaths. Now, if you're an empath, means that you actually can feel energy. You can feel the emotions. Now, I know for me, when I am watching a series, doesn't matter what the series is, if there's an emotional part that shows up in the series, before it even shows up, I start to get very emotional. I start to get teary-eyed. My heart starts to feel sad. And that's because I'm feeling the energy of what's showing up in my screen based on that episode. And that's another way that we know we feed from nutrients. So nutrients is not just about the minerals, the vitamins, and the supplements that we get from food. It's also everything that we're absorbing around us, the conversations that we have. Now, maybe it's not an episode that you're sitting and watching and binging on. Maybe you're sitting there watching the news, or you're being consumed into what's going on with politics, the government, whatever it may be. And you get really consumed into it because that's your thing. You get really excited. It ups your endorphins, so to speak, in reference to excitement. But those endorphins that you're being engaged in based on that particular topic, again, that's how you're absorbing that information. So it's not just food that we're taking in, it's all the energies around us as well. So I asked the question, how are you actually being fueled? Whether it's through food, or whether it's through media, or some episode, some series that you are binging on, or the conversations that you have with one another. When someone is going through a challenging time, they may call it a dark side, they may call it a low side, they may call it a bad side, they may even choose to use the word, oh, this is such a negative time for me, or I'm going to quote a friend of mine, I feel like there's a black cloud over me. These are just sort of experiences and lessons that we have to go through to get to where we have to go. And nobody ever wants to experience a black cloud over them. We always want to be into the sunshine. But that black cloud that's over us at that given time is there because it's helping us to raise our consciousness, raise our frequency, raise our vibration. It all means pretty much the same thing. It's helping us to get to where we have to go. And sadly to say, sometimes where we have to go, we do need to experience loss. We need to experience grief. We need to experience sadness. We need to experience hardship in order to get to where we have to go. It's a part of the journey that we are here. So these are all other ways of how we are fueling our body, our mind, our spirit, not just food. But when we think about food and the energy of food, and again, going back to my original statement that I had with my husband, the conversation that I had with him, what if we didn't have to consume food? What if we didn't have to literally take the time out to have food, and we can energetically take on the action of thinking about whatever the food is and connecting with it, and how we can utilize that food for our highest good. Now, let's face facts here, folks. Many of us enjoy food. I know I do. I enjoy food. I love pizza. I love pasta. I love spaghetti and meatballs. I love onion rings. Onion rings are one of my favorite foods. And there's so many other foods that I can definitely sit here and put on the list of the things that I enjoy. And even more so, many of us love to socialize around food. Think about the last event you went to. Did it not have food there? Now, funny enough, most of the time when I have events, there's no food. There may be, well, no, I actually can say there's no food. I may definitely serve some sort of beverage, such as water, but not necessarily food. I usually encourage my participants to eat before coming. So this way here, we can really engage in what it is we are doing. But most of the time, most activities, most events, most celebrations involve food. And when we think about the food, unless the group is consciously aware of taking care of their body and fueling their body with healthy food, most of the time the food that shows up at a celebration may be what we might want to label as low vibration food. If we want to label it anything at all, what is low vibration food? And is there really such a thing as a low vibration food? In society, again, all the things we've been programmed to believe that, and the food that's coming up as a choice to discuss is, let's talk about chips, potato chips, whatever kind of chip you like. Is it a low vibration food? Does it serve the body, the soul, the high nutrients it needs? Well, why not? Doesn't it have salt, sugar, carbohydrates, proteins, fat, and other essential vitamins in it as well? Maybe not as high as another food, such as, let's say, broccoli, where that might have a higher source of nutrients in it. So again, it comes back to this whole labeling of the habits, beliefs, and programmings that we are so used to in reference to, well, this is good food, this is bad food. Or the newest term, this is high vibration food, this is low vibration food. But if we can get rid of these terms and we can really start to transform the way we see food, the way we connect with food. Why is it some food we truly love and we want to have, but we sabotage ourselves and tell ourselves we cannot have it for whatever the reasons are? It could be based on, again, the labeling. This is good, this is bad, this is high, this is low. But it's all based on the philosophies of what we've been taught, based on 50 to 100 years of science. But here we are posing this question, and I'm going to repeat that statement that my good friend Natad said, opening the conversation. Everything we consume has an energy signature, including our food. So when we think about it, with that question, posing that question about the energy of food, can we really obtain the nutrients of food without actually consuming it, by physically eating it? And if we could, how would that actually serve our body? Now, I've already believed that whatever the food we choose to eat, again, whether it be potato chips or broccoli, that we can set and create the purpose of that food for us. So if we're choosing to have chips as opposed to broccoli, we energize the chips to do what we want the chips to do for us. Give us the nutrients we want from those chips. Maybe you are in need of some salt in your diet. And that's why you are, and I don't really like the word craving so much, but we'll use that for today. Maybe you are craving salt. Maybe your body is requiring some salt. And that's why you're choosing chips as opposed to choosing something that might be quote unquote healthier for you that has salt in it. Now, I'm just going to tap onto a different, well, same topic, but sort of different topic. When we think about salt, again, another philosophy that every one of us have learned over the last 50 to 100 years is that theoretically consuming salt in our diet is bad. We only need a certain amount of sodium in our diet. Otherwise, quote unquote, salt may cause you to have high blood pressure. However, that is a false statement. We need salt in our diet. Our bodies need salt in our diet in order to maintain nutrients. One of the reasons why we may not be hydrated is because we do not have enough salt in our body. And that causes, if you are one to be drinking enough water, but you still are dehydrated, it might be the fact that you're low on sodium. So something to think about, just food for thought. Another thing for food for thought. That's what this is all about, food for thought. Thinking about going forward as we start to shift our vibration, and as many of us are in this higher frequency now, a 5D, a 5 dimension, where so many of us are in the space where we're capable of seeing spirit, we're capable of hearing spirit. We're in this realm where, and I can speak from experience on this one because this is definitely me. We're in this realm now that we can literally cross over. I often cross over at night in my sleeping hours, and I connect with spirit. And I often have major conversations sitting at the big table, shall we say. But then I come back. And I take whatever wisdom that I received when I crossed over, and I deliver it to whomever the messages are for. So if I'm capable of doing that, I know there's a few of you out there that are capable of doing it as well. You may not be aware. You may actually just think it was a dream. And I thought the same in the very beginning as well, when I would wake in the morning and ask myself, did I really cross over? Did I really have these conversations with all these different people, some that I knew and some that I did not? Or was it just a dream? Well, I like to believe, and it's been said, and science has proven it, that if you can remember the dream, it's not a dream, it's a message. So if I'm remembering the fact that I've literally crossed over and had a conversation on the other side and came back with all this knowledge, all this wisdom, then yeah, I believe you too have the ability to do the same thing. So because we have these abilities where we can connect with spirit and be in that level of that higher consciousness, that lightness, shall I say, where your frequency is really in alignment to theirs as well, because that's really what it is. It's like turning on your radio, and your radio is not in the station you want it to be, so you hear static. And once you can clear the station, then you hear clearly. It's the same thing with the spirit realm in reference to communication. So we have this ability to connect, and there's so many of us who do. And from my experience, I'm finding that there's a lot more of us who are capable of connecting on all different levels, from seeing, hearing, feeling, smelling, tasting, and just the knowing of not knowing how you know something. These are all of our gifts that we all have. So if we have the ability to connect at that highest vibration, then what makes us think that we don't have this ability to fuel our body without actually really sitting and having the food, where you're literally sitting and eating it? Now, again, as I mentioned before, there is an enjoyment. There is a social part to this where, yes, we're going to sit down and really eat the food. You know, just as we binge on different types of series, sometimes we also binge on food. Whether we're binging because there's an event, there's a celebration, or we're binging because there's some emotion that we are trying to feed, an emotion of loneliness, an emotion of joy, and it doesn't matter. Notice I said an emotion of loneliness, an emotion of joy. Sometimes we binge on food when we're happy, when we're excited. And sometimes we binge on food when we are lonely, when we are sad, when we are grieving something. It's just part of that human nature that we do. And then at times there's other times where humans can go long hours without eating. I mean, right now, there's this new, and I call it a trend. There's this new trend or fad where there are so many people out there doing fasting, where they're going long hours. They're going anywhere between 8 to 12 hours of just not eating. And they may, after that fast is over, they will consume food in a short period of time. And again, these are all different ways that we are retraining our body to take in nutrients in a different way. Now, for those who are doing fasting, if you're doing the fasting for a specific spiritual practice, that's a perfect way of going about it. However, if you're fasting because you think it's the way to quote unquote lose weight, well, you're on the wrong track, because that is not the way to lose weight. In fact, let's just tap a little bit onto that for just a moment. If you've been following me on a regular basis, you know that I do not use the term lose weight. I refer to it as release weight. After all, anytime we lose anything, doesn't matter what it is, including weight, we will psychologically go back and look for it, because there's a reason why it's there. There is a reason why you carry the weight that you carry. Your weight, the physical weight that shows up on your body, metaphysically, is a psychological wall that you have built to protect you from something or someone. And until you are ready to release the emotional connection to that story that is connected to the weight, is when you will begin to release that weight that shows up physically on your body. So focusing on losing weight or doing whatever the trends are and the fads are right now is not the right track to be on to get to where you want to go, regarding whatever your reasons are to why you feel you need to release the weight. And then measuring it based on the process of how much you weigh, getting on the scale, or even measuring in reference to tape measurements. There is so much focus on decreasing body fat and getting lean muscle high protein diets, high intense exercise. And the real question is, are you really ready to release the weight that's connected emotionally, mentally, and psychologically to your body? And how does all of this come together, come into play in regards to, and food is energy. Food is energy. And for whatever the reasons are, energetically speaking, why is it that you are craving certain foods? What is it that you're really craving? What is it you're really craving? Are you craving socialization? Are you craving communication? Are you craving love? Are you craving conversation? Are you craving connection? Are you craving whatever it is you're craving? So the next time you do decide to sit and have a meal or take a meal on the go, ask yourself, what is it that I am actually looking to get from this food? What is it that I am trying to nourish my body with? And again, it doesn't matter what the food is. You can go through the drive-through of McDonald's and pick yourself up a quarter pounder with cheese and a large order of French fries. Lots of salt in that, but that's okay. Could just be that your body is craving salt. It may very well be that you are slightly dehydrated and you need that salt in order for your body to absorb the water that you might be drinking. Or maybe you're not drinking enough water. Whatever the story is, it's up to you to start really becoming aware. Bring your consciousness into this whole process of, why do you eat? Why do you eat? And again, the philosophies, we go back years, 50 to 100 years, to why would you eat? What is the process? What is the purpose to fueling the body? And do we need to fuel the body by physically eating? Or can we get to that level of vibration where we can just literally think about the food, allow ourselves to place the nutrients of that food for the nutrients to do what our body needs it to do for us to be a healthy version of ourselves? Or do we really need food? Do we really need food? And what does your body need based on the food that you are consuming? Now, again, this is not about whether we're going to judge the food as good or bad. This is really about that conversation of food is energy. And do we really need to physically have the food for it to give us the energy that we need? Or can we really be in that highest vibration possible to start thinking about how to absorb whatever it is without actually physically eating the food? Now, I know there are plenty of healers out there, such as yogis, that practice hours and hours a day, more than 12 hours a day, where they literally can be in that state of consciousness of raising their vibration and getting themselves out of that whole mindset of consuming food for the sole purpose of eating. Because again, everything really comes back to the word why. Why are we eating? Why are we fueling the body? What does the body need fueling for? What does the body need fueling for? And which food for today is going to help fuel your body? Now, today you may need certain foods, certain nutrients, certain vitamins, certain supplements. And tomorrow you may need different ones, all depending on what is actually going on with your body and the frequency you are on. Have you ever taken notice that suddenly something you loved eating, you all of a sudden no longer like to eat? Or you just decided to stop eating for whatever the reasons are, and now you're eating something different? We might refer to as spicy food, salty food, sweet food, or just food. So this is like part of the conversation that Natada and I were going to have. And I was really hoping that he would have been able to join me at this point. I'm just going to send him a message letting him know that I'm still on, that if he does want to jump on, I'm here. So I just sent him a message. So I'm going to give it about a minute to see if he responds, or better yet, jumps in. And I'm hoping that him and I can have this amazing conversation together where he can put his spin, his wisdom on this topic and really enlighten you based on his thoughts. Because, like I said, him and I have not had a chance to have this conversation in real time. This is all really based on a post that he put up on Facebook in alignment to a conversation that I had with my husband basically 5 days before he put his post up. So we are definitely aligned in this conversation without even knowing that we were aligned in this conversation. I like to always say, like-minded folks always have the same thing on mind. So let's see what happens. Gonna just give it a second or two. Might give you an opportunity that if you need to take a run to the bathroom, you can. But let's just see. Otherwise, if you cannot join us in this time, then this will be a part 2, because I'm really interested in his intake of what inspired him to come share the information that he shared based on this amazing topic. And I would love to get his thoughts on it. After all, when we really think about it, everything is really energy. Every one of us are connected in one way or another, whether we actually have connected in the path at this very moment in real time, or that you're just here paying attention to what it is I'm sharing with you. We are all connected in one way or another. And there might be something that I've shared with you today that you might have actually been thinking about, and you're probably saying right now, wow, I was just having the same thought. And that's usually what happens. There's so many of us on the same frequency, having these conversations all over the world, and possibly now coming together to really talk about this. Because we are literally, as Pluto just entered Aquarius, we are now in the age of the Aquarius. And it really is about how this world is going to begin to change, how every one of us are going to begin to change in reference to how we think, how we move, how we eat, how we connect. Who we were yesterday, who we were 20 years ago, who we were 50 years ago, if you're old enough to be on the earth for that long, we are not the same as we were before. We are really transforming and evolving into this different version of ourselves. For me, example, I look at myself in the mirror today and I sit back and say, wow, the version of me of 20 years ago and the version of me of now, what a different version. I am very different. My thoughts are different. How I move is different. What I'm sharing with each and every one of you are different. Now, in case you didn't know this, I have been in the health, fitness, and wellness industry for 35 plus years, and in the healing industry for just about 15 years. And blending these two industries together is magnificent and amazing at the same time, because they're so, as much as they are so separate, they really are so together. Because after all, when we think about our mind, our body, our spirit, they're not 3 different energies. They're all one, because it's all connected. And when we can start, as I am doing and here sharing with you, blending the physical and the spiritual or mystical world together as one, it helps us to really step into this idea of knowing that there is so much more than what meets the eye. And that when we can step into our own and become transparent enough to be authentic and recognize that each and every one of us has a purpose, has a soul's calling, that we do not have to follow or be in the norm or show up the way other people expect us to show up, and we allow ourselves to be confident enough to step into who we are really here to be, then we start to explore the difference. We start to explore, we start to share, we start to be in that space of, I'm going to teach this differently than everybody else. And that's exactly what I've been doing. And for me, it's so very interesting because there are so many amazing professionals out there in the health, fitness, wellness, and even healing modalities. There are so many professionals out there sharing what they share, but yet I'm on the opposite side of that path. What I am sharing, what I am doing when working with clients like yourself is very different. It's a different approach. than what the many are out there doing. But it's also because this is my calling, and I know for a fact that this is my calling. And I know there's several of you out there that are quite interested in learning a different way of doing what it is you are doing based on how you are fueling and feeding your body, how you do connect with nutrients, how you want to move your body in a different way, how you realize that if you are, again, over the age of 20, 30 years old, that moving your body in the old traditional way may no longer work. Or let's even go a step further than that. Maybe moving your body in the newest way, such as this high intensity, may not be the best way for your body right now, where your body may need not the high intensity where it's boom, 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 but more in reference to what can you do to help your body get stronger, leaner, so you can feel confident in the skin that you are in without it stressing your body out. Without it stressing your body out. When we think about the word stress in itself, that itself is another way that we are feeding our body. All the stress we experience, all the different stress around us. And every one of us experience stress in our day. Big question is, the stress that you're experiencing, how do you categorize it? How do you label it? This is good stress, this is bad stress. Stress is stress, but how we handle the stress will determine how our body experiences that stress, how our body responds and reacts to the stress that we are experiencing in our day. And stress is only another word, again, as humans use because it's challenging. So if we can eliminate the word stress and really maybe look at it as challenging. And as I say that, I think of my nephew, and I forget how long ago he had said this, and it was said by millions as well, but it really got into my ear when he said it. When we think about the word stress, when you spell that backwards, it's spelled as dessert. Yes. So the stress that we experience leads to the desserts that we desire because we're looking to feed our body to lift it up, to help our emotions feel better. Because as humans, we tend to not want to address the emotions that we feel. Sometimes we choose not to feel the emotions, so we suppress them. And we suppress them by binge eating. Binge eating on whatever the foods that you choose to binge eat on. Which again, if we can tap into whatever the emotions are that we may be pushing down or ignoring altogether, we can work on releasing the weight of those emotions and bring in more joy, more happiness, more excitement, and just see life as just that, being in a space of gratitude. Being in a space of gratitude. Gratitude is the key. So I'm guessing at this point in time that my good old friend Nathan cannot be here with us today. So there will be a part 2 to this. But I do thank you so much for your time, your energy, and your excitement of wanting to know, being curious on, is there another way of doing this? Is food energy as well as everything else? And do we need to actually physically consume the food to get the nutrients from it? Or is it something that we can retrain our brain and really start to move into that higher frequency of not necessarily having to eat the food in order to absorb the nutrients? And I'm going to leave you with this, and I might have said this earlier. I remember years back, many women, being in the field that I am and working with clients, specifically women, the old comments women would say is that all I had to do was look at that food and they would put on weight. Well, that again is another mindset. If you have that mindset that all you need to do is look at food and you put on weight, how about retraining your brain and see it as all I need to do is look at the food and absorb the nutrients that my body needs so I can fuel it, feed it, so I can feel good and move better and be the healthiest version of it possible. And love the body that you are in. So again, it just goes by changing and choosing what it is you say about whatever it is you're doing. It really is a matter of a choice. And you get to create whatever it is you wish to create. And just for today, I'd like to leave you with this idea, this vision. Whatever it is that you wish for your body to look like, whatever it is, if you want your body to be stronger, leaner, healthier, whatever it is, if there's an illness or disease that you have a contract with right now, this is your time right now to sit, visualize, create a healthier version of you. And in order to do that, you have to be willing and ready to experience whatever that is. So if you are experiencing an illness or disease at this very moment, this is your time to start asking, what am I supposed to learn from this experience? Because that's what it is. It's your experience. It's your lesson. And if you approach it in that way, as opposed to it as the way most humans relate to it as they're sick, no one's sick. You have a lesson. You have an experience that you are experiencing and you have a contract with. It's all about your mind setting. It's about how you connect with whatever that is that you have. If you're experiencing physical pain, start asking your physical pain, what is it that you need to learn from that experience? Retrain your brain to see it differently. And once you start to do that, you will gain the wisdom. You will learn the lesson. And once you learn the lesson and you start to act that lesson out and start to teach it to others, because you're the teacher as you are the student, you'll start to notice some different things shifting in your body. You'll start to notice, you start to release whatever the energies that you've been holding on to based on that experience. So just for today, I'd like to invite you to take a moment throughout your day, maybe just now, to close your eyes and begin to connect with your body. And start to see your body as that healthy version of yourself that you would like to be. And what you very well need to ask yourself, am I ready to really release whatever the connection is to whatever it is your body is feeling? Are you ready to release that? Because sometimes the illness, the disease, the physical pain, there's a payoff to having it. And that payoff may very well be an opportunity for someone to take care of you. And sometimes we may not feel worthy of someone taking care of us. We may have a challenging time receiving that support. And that's a whole other conversation, which I will share at a different time. But just for today, take some time out to close your eyes and begin to visualize and ask yourself, how would I like my body to be now? The way healthy, leaner, stronger, and see yourself as just that. Remember, it really does start with a thought, then it starts with a vision. So if you have this desire to want to be in a healthier body, that is already there for you. You just have to be ready to work on releasing the story that goes along with what you've been sharing up until now. So rather than focusing on that you're sick, or you have an illness, or a disease, or you have physical pain, only because you received the diagnosis, you can now just use that as you have a lesson, you have an experience, and you're ready to go through this challenge of learning whatever this is for you and whatever you're supposed to get from this. So just for today, take a moment just to visualize yourself in the most healthiest body you wish to be in and what that feels like for you. And then really get really serious with yourself and ask yourself, am I really ready to release the story that's relating to the weight? And once you are, that's where you begin your journey. And if you need any support at all in this process of releasing the weight that you hold on to, that's connected to your story, your emotions, I'm here to hold light, hold space, and support you on that journey. Feel free to go ahead and redeem a complimentary 15-minute self-growth discovery session with me. You can email healingwithin76@gmail.com, and I would love to help you and support you on this journey. As I said earlier, there will be a part 2 to today's conversation, because after all, my amazing colleague, friend, and human on this earth, Todd Bradbury, has posed the question or the statement, everything we consume has an energy signature, including our food. So there will be a part 2, so stay tuned for that. Until next time, bye-bye for now.